Welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh. Thank you very much for joining me for this In Focus. We spent a week out of the studio. It was fun being in Elstro Plaza last week, and we will do more In Focus programs out in the community as the next couple of months go by. But we needed to move back into the studio for this conversation. With Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. Haven't had them in the studio, haven't had a lot of people in the studio for a while. So this is good. And actually, we have not had you here.
In a long
so
time.
I have to do my disclaimer that I do whenever I talk to a member of the Whitewater Community Board of Directors, just for, full disclosure. Roxie has been a member of the board for about a year now, I think, right?
Almost a full year. I've had a lot of fun.
How's that going for you?
I've learned a lot, and I'm on the events committee, and we're planning some new things, and it's a great group of people. So
It is. Appreciate you agreeing to do that and be with
thanks
us.
for inviting me to it.
Melissa Vance of Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. Melissa has been with us for election coverage and some of everything else, but we were saying it's been a while since you've been in studio.
It really has. This past year and a half has in some ways drug by and in other ways flown by, and it's almost hard to imagine that it's been quite so long since we sat here together election night. A very, very long election night.
Very, very long. Yes, it was. The chamber, obviously, during that time has been busy. There was a lot of concern during the pandemic about businesses in the community. Why don't you all start by talking just a little bit about how our business community chamber members have come through this? It's been a rocky time for some.
Absolutely.
It's been very interesting, to say the least. We've had some businesses that have flourished. The manufacturers that really took the opportunity to figure out what they could do to play their part in the role of fighting this pandemic that our country was facing, and they thrived through it. Just had opportunity and skill to put, to really step in and make that a valuable time economically, but also socially. And then we've had other businesses that were forced to close their doors for months. And even when they did reopen, people weren't quite ready to go out, weren't quite ready to step foot and be in public for very long at all, when they didn't have to be. So learning a whole new model of doing business has been challenging. And then, of course, just trying to do their part in making sure their employees had a paycheck when that time came. And one of the things that we were fortunate enough to do was to be able to be that in between for the funding that was coming down from the government, the laws and the different bills that were being passed, and helping to funnel that information to our members so that they could access it and keep their head above water.
How was that for you all? Because the information was changing really sometimes pretty rapidly. I mean, from one week to the next, sometimes new information was coming out as to grant money or resource money, whether it was coming from the federal government, the state government, even local entities got together and put together money to kind of help some of our businesses. You all must have been juggling and doing a lot of reading during that time frame.
We split up the press conferences that were happening every day. So somebody would take the state, somebody would take the local ones, and somebody would take the national ones, and just recap them as a staff and then send that information out. And Melissa was really kind of right out of the gate on top of it, was starting the task force that started and really addressing the concerns our businesses were facing.
You mentioned new models that some businesses have had to work through. Are there things that you're hearing from some of your businesses in some of the sectors that, while it may have been a problem when the pandemic started, they found out that it actually did help their business, and there are things that some businesses are planning to continue because it has been a benefit to them?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we all have learned is that we don't necessarily want to stare at a screen all day long on a Zoom call, but using Zoom or some of those types of services is very effective for short meetings and things like that. I think that's going to continue in our world forever. The using of social media to do selling, to really capitalize on some of the digital platforms to get products into the hands of customers. Roxie put a lot of work in helping with our small businesses and helping them to be able to do just that, and leading the couch shopping in December. And, we're bringing that back, but that was really just to show people you can do this. There are different ways. Let's think outside the box and see what works.
A lot of our restaurants have gone from inside pickup to curbside pickup, and that little change has spurred a lot of business for them because people still aren't comfortable walking into a restaurant, and they've got the option to order from their favorite local place and drive up and grab it.
I'm seeing lines at some of the drive-ins,
Yes.
almost longer than before the pandemic, it
Yes.
seems. The whole drive-through idea really has taken off.
Even, grocery pickup. I don't think that's going anywhere. We didn't have it here locally
Until
Right.
pandemic hit.
I still haven't used
So-
it. Am I missing something?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm going to have to give that one a
Let's
try.
just say yes.
Love it.
During this time, you all have continued to evolve. Staff has changed a little bit during this time. Talk about what your staffing situation is like right now, because I think you've actually added a person during the pandemic that I assume everyone has met up to this point, but why don't you run through what the staffing is like and how things are divided in the office?
Sure. Well, Roxie is now over membership and education. She was previously doing education and events, but her skill set really is perfect for both of those pieces, being out in the community, talking to members, helping connect them to the things that are happening. She's fantastic at that. And then on the education side, her experience prior to coming to the chamber was education. And so bringing that knowledge here. And then we've added Lynette Davis, who is now our director of events, and she comes with a great skill set. We're about to see that with the annual dinner in the coming days. We're days away, which is amazing, but it's going to be fantastic. And then Daniel Arthur is our communications coordinator, and Daniel's working with our Main Street organizations, the Buy Local effort, as well as just day-to-day communications in the office. So we are a staff of 4 instead of a staff of 3. And every day I get in my car and go home and lay my head down at night and think, man, I can't believe 4 people just did what we did, but we did. And it's because we have a great team.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's start with what you just mentioned, the chamber dinner, normally a January event, obviously didn't happen last year, didn't happen in January. You took a risk and said, we're going to make August happen. It looks like that is going to come about. Talk a little bit about that event and how it's going to take place, where it's going to take place, when it's going to take place, because there was a lot of conversation to get to this point for you all.
We had a plan, and we had 2 backup plans. So I am so thankful that we're able to go with Plan A just because of where we are right now with the low numbers of COVID cases. And so we are going to have it at the Coleman Center again. We are doing a cocktail hour outside. We've moved some things to the lobby that used to be in the main room because we don't have to have a coat check this time. We're so excited about that.
No snow this year.
Yeah.
So we're able to spread out a little bit more and to take people in by section so that not everybody is going through the door at once. Those are some things that again, this is plan A, but we're still trying to do some things just to temper the traffic going in.
Sure.
But it is going to be a fabulous night. Our theme is No Place Like Home. We have some amazing winners that we can't wait to announce.
Yeah, it's really a celebration of what our community excelled at during 2020. And I was looking through the list of award winners, and I thought those are the all-stars of a global pandemic. They stood out. They supported the community. They were really the champions of everything that we celebrate. So it'll be a great night.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. My guests are Melissa Vance, Roxie Deer from the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. One of the things that you all have been doing this year is a series of conversations. You're halfway through that now. You started with the State of the Chamber, and I think that was back in February.
I believe
My mind is
Yeah.
working a little bit. State of Workforce Development. Got through that, more of a panel discussion than the first one, and all of these haven't taken the same shape or the same look, I don't think.
Right.
You'll have two more still to come. Let's go back to State of the Chamber, State of Workforce Development. What is the State of the Chamber? Sounds like it's pretty good at this point.
It's as far as the chamber as a whole, when we think about our 534, is that our number,
yeah,
Roxie?
today.
534 members. We have had a strong membership, and I think the nice thing about, if there is a nice thing about a pandemic, is it helps us strengthen those relationships with our members. And so hopefully there's been enough going on, enough information flowing, enough hand holding, so to speak, to get those businesses through. I believe that we still don't know the end outcome of what our community will see from the pandemic, and we probably won't till the end of the year to see, when all of these dollars stop flowing, who's still standing. And it's really tragic almost to feel that way.
Sure.
But we're hoping that the majority of our businesses survive this in the long haul. So when we think about State of the Chamber, it's really, for us, it's the state of what our business community is. Then internally, we also realized there was a great need for us to stay connected and with our legislators in maybe a greater way than what we have done in the past, and to be on the forefront of that information moving forward, even out of the pandemic. How do we become resilient? And that's not just coming back to where we were, it's to moving forward. And so we talked a lot about that day.
State of Workforce Development, that is a conversation that is continuing to go on as people have, some gone back to work, some never stopped. I know the staff is going, what do you mean going back to work? But getting people back into an office, transitioning back. Some people aren't happy about going back into an office.
Yeah.
How does that look like? Some people were laid off, didn't know whether their jobs were going to come back. They've changed careers. Some businesses are down folks. When you all talked about the State of Workforce Development, what did that look like for this area?
I think a lot of our participants that day thought we were going to give some kind of golden answer, that we had this ticket to success. And really, there's so many factors playing into this workforce development issue. And we know that we don't have enough people for the number of jobs that we have, and that's across the country an issue. And so we really have to figure out how we can make the positions that we do need to fill. How can we use our people to the best? Do we need to upskill them? Do we need to find different certifications or rearrange job descriptions? And so helping our businesses start to see a new way of thinking is really what the chamber focused on that day. We heard from, not only did we hear from the state area of that, but we also heard from the small business piece, and we also included some mental health aspects to that as well, because we know we have parents working at home taking care of their kids and working a 40-hour-a-week job. that's stress that nobody should ever be under, and all of a sudden they're doing everything. They're mom, teacher, employee, and sometimes many other job titles as well. And so all of these factors started to play in, and the discussion really came to, we don't know what the next step is for our area, but we know that we're all on the same table moving in the same direction.
State of Community and State of Growth are the next two events that you all will have. Talk a little bit about, at this moment, how you envision those coming about and what you think those conversations will surround.
We're still pulling together who will be with us that day, but for the State of the Community, we really want to take a look at what's the quality of life here. You know, where are our arts organizations playing a role in the state of the community and making this a place that people want to be? And that is on the heels of what Roxie just said. When we're trying to fill job openings and we don't have enough people for that, the community piece, this quality of life piece, is huge. And so we want to talk about that day. We have an amazing group of people that are really driving all of the things that we want to have here in our community, whether it's events like the Meltdown Festival or having a professional orchestra or a theater, or things like Richmond Shakespeare Festival. And, you know, all of those, that makes us be a place that we want to stay. So we want to touch base with them. We want to see where they're headed and what they have been able to accomplish this past year, and how we can help support them in order to help make this a place that people want to come and we can attract employees. And then on State of Growth side, that's going to be more logistical. You know, where are we with housing? We can't attract people to move here if we don't have enough houses, and there is a lot of work happening in that arena, and so we're going to talk a little more about that day. We'll talk with some of our local elected officials and see how things are going with the towns around the county. So we're looking forward to both of those conversations. I think it's important that as a community, we stay connected to all of the pieces and really find value in what each sector is doing.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're having a chance to speak with Melissa Vance and Roxie Deer from the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. Just a quick kind of off the cuff, there's a lot of regionalism going on right now. Eastern Indiana Regional Plan Commission, the EDC is working across county lines. Is that something that the chambers are doing? You're the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, but some of our communities have their own chambers. Are you working with them, and are you stretching out across county lines a little bit more, or is that kind of something that doesn't happen? But you're just seeing more of a regional thought process as IU East continues to grow, Reed Health continues to grow, and they are doing it regionally across a wider area. What does that look like for chambers?
Absolutely. So Roxie and I both have been a part of some of the Forge Your Path conversations in the Talent Region 6 that the EDC is participating in. That region actually consists of leaders in the philanthropic world, economic development world, and the chamber world, all working together to develop that region and make sure that the data that's being cultivated is pulled together and used for future grant purposes. So that's important for us. We know there's a lot of the same skills that are needed. And Roxie, you know, working with education side and even young professionals, she's reached out beyond that.
Yeah, we are taking anybody who's working, or I say working, living, or playing in Wayne County, and they can live in Eaton and be working here, and we want them to be involved in our community and getting, you know, planting their roots here, and eventually they will think about living here full time. And it's been really fun to see the growth and people outside of the community going, I want to be in Richmond and doing things that are happening there. It's been a fun experience.
Even with the young professional events, there's been conversation about stretching across the state line and doing some partnering with young professionals in Preble County.
Yes.
There's a few things that are taking place, that have taken place or are taking place. We're going to try to hit those as we go through. And I'm just going to kind of toss a topic out there and let you all go, because I'm not going to tell you that I have studied all of this, because I haven't. If I say healthcare to you, what's the conversation?
You know, Eric, this is something that when I came to the chamber 6 years ago, prior to being in the role I'm at now, and I started going out and talking to businesses and saying, what's your number one concern right now? We heard over and over and over again, it was the cost of health care, the cost of health insurance, and being able to provide those valuable benefits to employees and for themselves if they're an entrepreneur. And so fast forward 6 years, I am happy to say that this year we were finally able to roll out a really great partnership with United Healthcare in pulling together a chamber health plan for our members. So as long as a business has at least 5 eligible employees, they can participate in this chamber healthcare health insurance plan. And there's so many benefits to it. It's very in-depth, and if people want to know more, they can always contact us. But so excited that we're able to offer this to people, and we've had phone call after phone call, and Roxie has been meeting with people regularly just because of this specifically.
Yeah, and I will preface this that I'm not trying to sell you the insurance. I will point you to the insurance agencies that will do this. You don't want me handling your insurance. But it's been a really interesting conversation, because businesses that have never been able to offer health care to their employees can now say, here's an added benefit to working here, and it's a retention strategy, and it's a recruitment strategy as well. They're able to find different employees that are going, I don't have this at my current employer, let me go work for you where I can have insurance, and especially the health insurance, and we're also adding on the retirement plan.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a month after we rolled out the health insurance plan with United Healthcare, we rolled out a retirement plan with Lincoln Financial. Lincoln Financial is out of Fort Wayne. They're right here, based in Indiana, but do work nationwide. Very well respected company, and so for the same purposes, now small businesses can offer a 401k plan at a much reduced cost than what they previously could do. Both of these, as Roxie said, we're not the ones that are selling them. It's just a benefit of being a chamber member, and we're pointing them to the insurance agents locally that are able to sell the United Healthcare plans, and our chamber member financial planners are able to work with the businesses and help get them set up on a plan that's appropriate for them. For some, the 401k plan won't be the right fit, and there might be other options, but we wanted to make sure that our member experts were the ones that were working with folks.
Did the healthcare and the 401k really begin to come about because the membership in the chamber changed a little bit? I remember when I first came to town, a lot of the members of the chamber really seemed to be much larger organizations. As the years have gone on, just kind of in looking at the membership rolls, there are more smaller startup businesses, smaller entrepreneurial type businesses. Is that kind of what made this something that you felt like you had to get involved in a bit more?
Absolutely. We have, and this is just a shot in the dark, I don't have this with me, but I would say probably 300 of our 534 members are small businesses.
If not more than that.
If not more. And it really depends on, to me, a small business is maybe 50 or fewer employees. But when you look statewide for some grants and some other things, it might be 100 or 500 employees that makes you considered small. And to us, that's not small. But yes.
Okay. Business Summit?
I'm going to let Roxie talk about this. She's been working on it, and it's fabulous.
This is a brand new chamber event that we're bringing to the community. We're actually going to do it right here on the IU East campus, and it's going to be a day-long leadership conference, business training conference, and we're going to have keynote speakers, breakout sessions, a business expo, and there will be different tracks for people throughout the day. So if you're an HR professional, there will be sessions for you. If you're on the CEO, president side, there will be sessions for you. Young professionals, of course, will have their own track, and lots of fun things will happen throughout the day. We've been meeting with our keynote speakers, and we're excited to announce who they are in the next few days. And just there will be a lot of energy that day and a lot of training opportunities.
When is this taking place?
October 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
people should mark their calendars and take the day off.
Yes.
Yes. It's going to be a jam-packed day. We know that a lot of businesses are not having their employees travel for obvious reasons right now.
Sure.
And this summit is coming at a really good time for those that want to have that educational opportunity but don't want to participate in nationwide travel to get it. There are some virtual summits that people can participate in. I'm doing one next week in the chamber world, but that's not always preferred either. You don't get quite the same experience. So having this local and at a cost without having those added expenses, you can send more people to it. You can bring your mid-level employees and your young professionals. And really, our goal is to help develop the pipeline. If we don't mentor the young professionals, then when the mid-professionals move up, who's going to fill that role? And on up the line, when the executives retire, who's going to fill their shoes? And we've got to continue developing that pipeline, whether it's through a day like the Business Summit or continued education with our educational partners here in town.
And the coolest part about this summit, I think, is that all of the presenters outside of our keynote speakers are local. So we're really using the talent that we already have in Wayne County and letting them have a microphone and spread the word that their knowledge and they are really strong at. We're going to have marketing, and we're going to talk about diversity issues and all different topics that are hot topic issues right now. And we're going to rely on our community leaders to teach those sessions.
Talk about how important it has been to the local business community that the Chamber has stepped so much more heavily, I think, from what I've seen, into the education piece that you all are doing, whether it's the monthly things that you all are doing. I mean, it has been continual that you all have really tried to pick up on that education piece for the small businesses in particular.
It's vital to what we're doing. During COVID, we hosted a webinar on taxes and the changes that were coming in taxes, and a local business wasn't checking a simple box off, and they ended up changing their taxes, having an amendment done, and they were able to save thousands of dollars. And and we're using our local talent again to teach these lessons. And education is the only way our businesses are going to continue to grow and not just sustain where they're at now, but to grow into the next level. And not just the business model itself, but the employees that work there. And we have to continue to train and grow the people that we have right here.
I was just going to say that also, if we stay as a community on the forefront of what's happening, we're going to see more people that are graduating from high school, graduating from college, or just looking to grow in their career in some way, choosing those things here instead of leaving. When I was growing up, and I know this happens some still, but when I was growing up, all we talked about was, when we graduate, where are we headed? And we went.
I'm out of here.
We went out.
Gotta go.
And I mean, I was one of those. I left. I lived in D.C. I lived in Texas, but I came back home. And this is home. And even though there are so many great things that I love about my community that are very similar to what they were when I left years ago, it has grown exponentially in other areas.
And you're finding a lot of people coming back home, you know.
Yeah.
Sherry Harlan Davis is one that left, came back home.
Yes.
New superintendent, Richmond Community Schools, left, came back home.
Yes.
So you are finding those people beginning to come back here, either to help or just because family is here. There's still a lot of families here.
And I've noticed with the young professionals, even my classmates, during the pandemic, they've gone virtual or maybe they've lost their job, and they know that Wayne County is an affordable place to live. And they can come back here, be close to family, and we have the amenities they need, and we're close to the bigger community amenities that they also want. So I've seen, I think I can count 5 or 6 of my own classmates that have moved back from major cities and have really kind of dove into living here and loving to live here.
We're talking about education and graduating high school, college, high school in particular. Over the last couple of years, you all still have been able to do your, I don't know whether School is Cool is still the name that works. That's
Yes.
how it was rolled out.
Yes.
But you all have still been able to have those celebrations the last couple of years. Talk about that and talk about some of the changes, particularly this year with some of the scholarship money that became available.
Yeah, the last 2 years have probably been the trickiest to pull off because in 2020, we had a global pandemic and we weren't allowed to have our students together, so we went virtual with our senior celebration and gave away all the prizes and t-shirts that we normally would give away. And this year, because of we didn't want people going to school sick, we changed the guidelines a little bit and ended up, I would say, almost quadrupling our numbers. We had 234 students that qualified, and that's just seniors, that qualified with perfect attendance this year. It was another virtual event, but we every student walked away with a t-shirt. They walked away with a gift of $50 or more. One senior walked away with a brand new car. And Melissa was able to pull off a really big surprise at the last minute.
The students did not know this until that night, so it was really fun. And it was fun to have our friends from Ivy Tech and IU East with us because they helped give away the prizes on air that night on Zoom. It's amazing. Roxie kept everything, all 234 people, plus parents and family members and us remotely on Zoom, and you know, it all going. So kudos to her. If you ever need a Zoom expert, maybe pick up the phone and call Roxie. But we were really excited because that night, both IU East and Ivy Tech gave every one of those students a $1,000 scholarship for perfect attendance. They called it the School is Cool Scholarship. And so when you add up those scholarships and all the other prizes, we gave well over $500,000 away on Zoom that night. And that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
The energy was really, you could almost feel it through the Zoom. Everybody was chatting. They were in the chat box. You couldn't even keep up because the students were cheering on their classmates. And it was just a lot of high energy and a perfect way to end the kind of a crappy school year.
Earlham College has stepped into being a partner with the Chamber. Talk about their scholarship because that's a big deal.
It's significant. They were not able to do the same scholarship with the School is Cool program, but they've wanted to add value to our local community as well. And they've worked really hard at attracting local students to stay here that are looking for a liberal arts education. And in doing that, they pulled together a scholarship for Chamber members, their employees, and their employees' families that adds up to $10,000 toward tuition, $2,500 per year for 4 years. and it's phenomenal.
That's big.
It's big. You know, just to put this in perspective, if you work at Hill's Pet Nutrition and you have 2 kids that are headed off to college in the next couple years, going to Earlham, you just saved $20,000. So it's very meaningful to our community, meaningful to the chamber for sure.
Meaningful to Earlham, I think. Getting
Yes.
even more local students on that campus, making a stronger connection between Earlham and the Richmond community, which has bounced back and forth through the years.
Right.
We've always talked about the Earlham bubble, and this is really kind of bursting that bubble and bringing the two together and connecting our current high school students with their campus, and our chamber members will benefit from it.
Nice. The governor is coming back.
He is.
The pandemic's over. The governor's coming back. Sorry.
He is. It's been 3 years since he's been with the chamber. So we were already thinking it's time for us to bring the governor back, and they weren't planning anything until after session was over and really taking a look at what the protocols were going to be. But we're happy to say that we are bringing him back to town for a luncheon that is chamber member specific. We're limiting it to chamber members. In large part, just we've got to limit the number of people that we pull together that day.
Sure.
But we're excited to have a good question and answer, kind of a casual conversation with him with some predetermined questions that will be, when I say predetermined, not predetermined by the governor, predetermined by our Chamber Issues and Advocacy Committee.
Okay.
And then that day, after some of those questions and conversation has taken place, we'll take other questions from audience members. But I think it's good for us to hear from him. We've heard from him a lot over the last year, daily and then weekly. Mm-hmm. Where are we going from here? You know, what are some of the things that we need to make sure we do to keep moving forward? And we're excited that he's willing to come and have that conversation with us.
That date again is September 9th, Forest Hills Country Club. Somebody wanting to RSVP, how do they do that?
You can go on our website, wcareachamber.org. You can call our office and we'll register you there. And the links are available on social media.
Okay. You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time with Melissa Vance and Roxie Deere from the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. They've been doing a lot during the time of the pandemic. As you can hear, we started and have continued and haven't hit everything yet. I'm going through all of my notes to see what's next. WC Leads.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about this. This is a brand new program of HYPE Wayne County, and HYPE stands for Helping Young Professionals Engage, and the organization itself has been around since the early 2000s, but came under the chamber in December of 2019. And then the pandemic happened, and we really just paused the organization and used that time to really grow and think about what 2021 would look like. And we've launched a few other programs this year, but this is probably the most meaningful and the one I think will make the biggest impact. WC Leads is a leadership academy, and it's going to be a very exclusive group. It's going to be 12 people a year that will go through this, and we will cover topics from emotional intelligence, and we will have how to build culture and building a dynamic team, to even topics about how you take your career to the next level. And along with that, every participant will be assigned a mentor where they will get to talk to them about career development and just get advice from somebody else in the community. So this program the applications are now open, and you can reach out to our office and we'll get you that application. But we have noticed that the young professionals we have need to skill up, and our businesses need them to skill up, and this is the first step to getting them to that next level and really bringing in some powerful presenters to deliver this content.
When you talk about our young professionals needing to skill up, take a couple of minutes, be a little bit more specific.
Exactly.
What specifically are the business community, business leaders telling you they are needing from young professionals that they don't currently have right now?
I think it's experience. That's what it can be summed up to. For a lot of our young people, they have not been given the chance to learn from professionals in the community. And if they have, it's in limited capacity. There are some young professionals that need additional education or certifications. But I think for our specific demographics in our community, it's really about giving them the experience to learn, to be at the table, to have the important conversations, and to know that their voice matters and that they too can make a difference. And it's no longer the CEOs they're there, but there's other voices that are being heard, and it's amplifying. This is going to amplify their voices and make them a little bit more heard.
When you think about hype, first of all, tell us who fits into that.
Anyone 21 to 40, and you can be anywhere in your career. We have students just graduating from college and have moved back to town, or graduating from IU East, Ivy Tech, and Earlham, and they're new in their stages and they're building their resume, doing mock interviews. And we have, on the other end, we have the 40-year-old CEOs that are just new into the leadership role and taking on a bigger step in the community. So anyone in that age range and all the different places in there. Yesterday I was working with a young professional who had just moved back to town, and she couldn't figure out where to print her resume off because she didn't have a printer. And she called me and she said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Let's figure it out. Let's get you a resume. Let's get it printed out and get you off to your interview." And it was really like a support system for her. She said, "I know I need to call somebody and I need to know who to ask and where to ask it." And we're supporting them along the way.
Where does hype meet? How often do they meet? Someone wanting to get involved in the group, they're hearing this maybe for the first time. They're just moving back.
We meet monthly on the third Wednesday of each month from 5:30 to 7 at Van Vliet Insurance. And so I say there's multiple ways to join hype. And that's the planning committee. They're the ones planning the social events, the professional development, the volunteer events. You can be a member of hype just by attending our events. So it's going to our Adulting 101 classes or our social networking. We have a Richmond Jazz game coming up. We do monthly nights at the museum and other events that are just ways to connect with things that are already existing. We went to the Model T Museum and got the tour, and when we came out of the museum, all the Model Ts were there, and they drove us to Cordial Cork. It was just a fun night, and many of them had never been to the Model T Museum, and the Model T Museum said, "Well, our average age just dropped by about 20 years for the entire year." So it's fun to connect them and let them see the fun quality of life things that Wayne County has.
Chamber Chat, which had been a program that had been on, it actually started even before I became executive director, so it had a 12, almost 13-year lifespan, kind of took a break during the pandemic, got replaced by a program called Together that you're hosting, focusing on young professionals.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about why you decided to take that on, who you've talked to, and what those conversations have been like.
This has been fun. When hype came under the chamber umbrella, one of the comments we heard was, "Are there even young professionals here?" And there's actually 19,000 people that fall in that 21 to 40 range in Wayne County.
Really?
And that number's shocking, right? And
it is.
You see that and you go, "Oh, we have to tell those stories." And this is what we're doing. We're finding one young professional a month, and we're highlighting them on social media. We bring them to the chamber board meetings. They get to introduce themselves. Their employer comes along and talks a little bit about their goals there. And then we have the Together where we sit down and really have an in-depth conversation about their career goals, what they plan to do, how they got to where they're at. And we've had some amazing people come in. We've had Kara Ballou, who most people don't know this, she started in the military, and she has just wove this incredible career, and now she's a career coach. And we've had Tyler Stewart, who at the time was leading the Excel Center Richmond, and he talked about, he grew up here, he was raised here, and he had the same thing. "I'm going to get out of this town, I'm never coming back." And now he's one of our biggest community leaders. And just these incredible stories. This month we're highlighting Ed De La Paz, who of course has worked at the chamber before, but has really become an advocate for everything Wayne County. And these stories are, and we're telling these stories because we think it's important, and they're connecting with each other outside of that. So they're going, oh, there's more people here that are doing things, they're my age, and I can connect with them and I can have a relationship with them.
I had a chance to talk to Caleb Smith last week,
Yes.
who has been here for a number of years, came to Richmond to be a student at Earlham, got involved in the community, got hired by the park department, was coordinator for the farmers market,
Yeah.
took it to another step. One of the things I asked him was, what is Richmond, Wayne County doing right by young professionals? And not to knock it, but what could possibly be done better?
Absolutely.
Taking your role as someone really working with young professionals, talk about that for a little bit. Where are we right where we should be, and where do we have some work to do?
I think we've really, and over the past 5 years, we've really started to recognize young professionals and say this is the next level of leaders. And not just hype. We're not the only organization doing this.
Right.
Across the board, everyone's having these conversations. And I think that is leading to much more significant change happening, and especially around quality of place. We heard Melissa talk about that earlier, and that's where we can improve the most, is giving them opportunities to do things that they could do in other communities. We've talked about, we're connected well to Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Dayton, Muncie, all of the bigger communities, but let's give them opportunity here to have those same things.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're down to about our last 12 minutes. First of all, I need to make sure that there's nothing on my list that I missed. Is there something that you all have that you're running through the list in your head of
We
all the
are.
things
Can
that
you
you
see
all
our
have been
wheels
doing?
turning?
Because you're going to walk out and go, we didn't talk about.
Probably.
If there's not, one of the things I want to ask you about, your committee structure, Issues and Advocacy Committee in particular, has continued to meet via Zoom, and I'm sure a number of your committees have, but that's one that really does look at the community as a whole and how it affects the business community. Talk a little bit about some of the conversations that have taken place during the year. You all had some things that you wanted to push. You've had to maybe step back from some of those things as you look at, hopefully, us coming out of the pandemic. Where does that committee want to go? What are the type of things that they are seeing as important conversations that the community needs to have?
You know, there are probably 2 or 3 big things that we really want to see happen. But one of those conversations, and we met this week, in fact, is really getting to know better our minority business leaders. Some of the minority business leaders have been, unfortunately, I think on an island by themselves, or feeling we've learned that maybe just not feeling like they're welcome at the table, and that's not something that should ever happen. We should not ever be exclusive to the point that we don't welcome people at the table. We, as a chamber, want to see every business succeed, regardless of who's running it and what they look like. And so we're having some of those heart-to-heart conversations and really asking the questions, and we've had some people just be completely honest and sharing that with us, that we're going to have to step outside of our boardroom in order to make connections with the entire business community. And, I'm sorry to say that maybe that hasn't happened in a greater way than it has, but that's one of the important topics that we've just had, and we know we want to continue having. I think coming out of last year and seeing some of the tragedy around the country has made us take a deeper look at that, when maybe we've been focused on other things. It's not been an intentional neglect in any way, shape, or form, but it's made us really intentionally look at what are we doing And are we making sure we're portraying where our heart truly is, if that makes sense?
When you talk about quality of place, life, and it's been mentioned 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
by you all, it can mean something different depending on who you say it to.
Yes.
As the chamber, when you all talk about quality of life, quality of place, be a little bit specific with us if you can about the type of things that you all are talking about that are needed here to attract and keep young professionals. Some of us that are, keep looking over our shoulder toward a pastor are going, okay, who's that next person in? So what's needed? What are you all looking at? What does a community need to think about?
Well, when we talk about quality of life, that's really what is there to do? What are those services or those arts organizations and things like that help us be involved in the community? And I know Roxie hit on some of those earlier, and just with whether it's the baseball team or the symphony or the arts organization. I know Diva is very active, and that's been a fun place for people to get involved, or the theater or museums, those kinds of things. And then quality of place is more on the physical things that you can see. For instance, when you go downtown or you go to the Depot District, what's there that you see that makes you go, wow, this is where I want to be? When you drive into town from the interstate and you're driving through for the first time and you're looking around, is this the kind of place, are we projecting what we want to be to the community? And so I'll be really honest, we've had a lot of conversations lately about weeds and how do we control weeds. And I know that sounds just really trivial, but when you drive into town,
Sure.
If all you see is weeds, you don't ever get to see the people that are here and the things that make you want to stay.
And it's funny because that conversation started at the INA table, and there weren't any young professionals sitting around. And I went to the hype group the next week and I said, what do you want this group to focus on? And the first thing that came out of their mouths was, we need this place to look better. And light bulbs were going off in my head. And so we've come up with a project that's going to take place on August 20th called Community Improvement Day. And we're going to highlight some of these big areas and really just try to make them look more appealing. We want that curbside appeal, so when people are driving in, they go, oh, this is a beautiful place. They've really taken time to care for this location, and they want people to feel welcome here.
Community Improvement Day, is that something that you're looking for people to volunteer
Absolutely.
to do? How can they do that? What will you need them to bring? Has all of that been decided yet, or to be determined?
So we are so blessed. We've received 2 grants, one from the Wayne County Foundation and one from the Urban Enterprise Association, the UEA, and that will help offset the cost. We're working with some of our Main Street community groups, committees, and to help also offset some of those costs. And we're working on how the volunteers can get signed up. We're hoping companies will send out groups of employees, and we're going to have a celebration at the end of the day to show the before and after pictures of these projects. And it'll just be a great day to everyone to get in and chip in on these projects.
We are right now pulling that list of projects together, and we want to have at least one project in the towns around the county, not just Richmond. I know a lot of times people think, oh, the chamber office is in Richmond, they serve Richmond, but we serve the entire county. And the entire county really builds this quality of place that we were just talking about. So we want to do things in Cambridge City and Hagerstown and Centerville and Fountain City, but we need people to actually submit project ideas so that we can look through the list and figure out what's attainable with the volunteer group that we have.
Have you all worked on, I think you have, making that inclusive feel? Because from the time I got here, there has always been this us versus them, county versus Richmond type situation. How have you all addressed that over the last couple of years? I know I've seen you at a couple of council meetings.
I actually am a county girl. I grew up in the county and have lived there since I moved back. So, full disclosure, I am in the process of moving. I sold my house, so there is that. But that said, my heart has always been county. So we've gotten very involved in making sure we're attending the Main Street meetings around the county, whether it's Centerville, Hagerstown, Cambridge City, all have their own Main Street organizations, as does Richmond. And Daniel is our buy local person, and he attends all of those. We attend some of them. And then we have a representative now on our board that's appointed by each one of those towns. So we have an appointed seat on the board to make sure that their voice is at the table. One of the conversations that happened shortly after I came to the chamber 6 years ago was, and it was among our board members, was just we either are the Richmond Chamber, we should call ourselves the Richmond Chamber, or we need to be the county chamber. And we decided we really want to be the county chamber. So, it's important.
And we have incredible board members who keep the idea driven. And Brenda McLean is always saying,
Yes.
are we connecting with the county? Are we connecting with the county? And I appreciate that, because you can get so absorbed with right where you're at. We're in downtown Richmond. We see the downtown problems, and we have to take a step back and go, oh, all of the cities need our help.
Yes. And we're very involved with the schools. So, we talked about education earlier, but with the school systems, which obviously play a huge part in each one of those communities, I think also helps keep us connected there.
Okay. Ladies, thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you coming in. Good to see you.
Yes.
Good to have you in the studio.
Yes.
Thank you for
Excited.
having us.
Melissa Vance, Roxie Deer, Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. WCAreachamber.org is where you can find a lot of information on the things that we've talked about today, the scholarships, the governor coming, and a whole lot more. So be sure to check them out. Thank you very much for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. If you missed any of this conversation, it replays tonight at 10:30, tomorrow at 8, Saturday 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., Sunday 8 a.m., 1 p.m. It's also available on our video on demand site, WGTV Online. Thank you very much for watching. As always, we appreciate it. We'll be back next week with another edition of In Focus. As always, I wish you well. Have a good one.